and bought his mama a house. I love those stories. But when you think about wealth, you can't just think about getting it. You have to think about how is wealth sustained. Beyonce said something that I think the community really needs to pay attention to. Beyonce said, my grandchildren are already rich. My great-grandchildren are already rich, which means she said, not only do I have money, I'm going to perpetuate this wealth throughout generations. And black people, we love talking about multi-generational wealth. We love that rhetoric. But we need to think about, how do you sustain wealth? Long after nobody wants to see Beyonce jiggle on stage, when she's doing backroom Vegas shows, back when she's replaced by another blonde-haired, wig-wearing, young, talented black woman, black girl magic, whatever. Long after she's resigned to legendary status, she's up there with Aretha Franklin and other people who still got the name, but can't fill arenas anymore. Long after all of that, long after Jay-Z, nobody, the face tattooed mumblers have already displaced Jay-Z. She said, I'm going to keep this money. How do you sustain multi-generational wealth in a capitalist economy? Think about that. Look at these people's holdings. Look at their investments and what they're vested in. And you'll find that Beyonce and LeBron and all these wealthy blacks that you love so much, and they'll tell you, I don't even spend the basketball money. I don't even spend the endorsement money. I'm making so much money off of my dividends and residuals, I ain't even got to think of that money's just stacking. And so then you'll see that these same people that love us and we love them, that look like us and we look like them, the same people that got us imagining we too will have the $100 million bank account, those same people are more aligned in their interest with Donald Trump, with the Heritage Foundation, with Bechtel, with Halliburton. Those same people, their interest align with our oppressors more so than they align with us. Their economic interests trump, no pun intended, trump their racial loyalties. And it never ceased. It has been that way since when they first came to snatch an African. And there was one African that was like, in order to preserve my cattle, I have to cooperate with the invaders. Oh, not only cooperation with the invaders not only helps me to preserve my cattle, it'll allow me to amass, because when they snatch my neighbor and drag him off, I get to take his cattle and his land. And then they snatch my other labor, and so not only can I preserve what I got, I can amass and big up myself. And maybe I'll start a little tribal school. So yes, Beyonce has to exploit the sweatshops in Bangladesh. And yes, LeBron has to exploit the sweatshops in Haiti and China and Indonesia in order to amass his wealth. Because Jordan, Beyonce, LeBron James, who are selling art, and then I have to come to the black community and get something that I extracted from exploited labor, and then sell it flip it in a community where people are indoctrinated through mass media, through rap, this rap to want these material things. And because so little value is placed on life, that I have to cover myself in these logos, these meaningless logos, in order to have some meaning and worth in my community and to myself. It's all a toxic cycle. And LeBron wouldn't be a $100 millionaire. He signed it before he ever got in the NBA. He signed $1 million contract with Nike, $90 million contract with Nike. And so I'm going to come over here, and you're going to cooperate with our oppressors in order to help us. Help us to what? Overthrow the very system that allows you to amass the wealth? When has that ever happened? Now, it has happened. I know the answer to that. It has happened. But let me tell you something. Class suicide, where a person elevates within a class and gets to the upper tier of a class and then turns around and subverts that class, it's more Bigfoot and UFO sightings are more common than class suicide. It happens, but it's extremely rare. And I don't see LeBron. LeBron is class stabilizing. He's class reinforcing. And here's another thing. Why did LeBron have to build the school? There was something. Let me tell you something. People always say, what do you think LeBron should do? And I didn't want this to be the LeBron show. I got some other things we need to talk about. But it is what it is. The spirit is moving me, y'all. And it ain't about any individual. It's about the collective. I'm a socialist. I'm a collectivist. So believe you me, if I'm provoked to talk about an individual, it's based on the collective. And I want the collective to have this understanding. It doesn't matter what he does or doesn't do. The power is with the people. So as we move, the world has no choice but to move. But instead of us directing our movement, we're being herded like cattle. But let me tell you, people like what? Wesley Snipes, at the height of his career, when he had done Blade, when he had that hit movie, that baseball movie, and he was making so much money, he didn't even go back to the movie in New Jack City in the 90s, Wesley was the man. I know he done fell off now. He's doing straight to Netflix or straight to DVD, but there was a time when he was a big Hollywood draw. And he decided, I want to do something positive for my community. So he made a documentary. He executive produced, financed, directed a documentary. But it wasn't Wesley Snipes speaks to the community. He went and found the most prominent scholar in the black community at the time, Dr. John Henry Clark, and says, I got the resources. I got the technical know-how. Let me put that behind your knowledge. Let me put that behind your wisdom. And let's bring together my resources and your wisdom. Because you spent your life fighting for the people. There ain't no money in that. And so then that came out with A Great and Mighty Walk. I believe A Great and Mighty Walk is, I might have to play that on the air. But A Great and Mighty Walk. And he put his resources Now, Wesley Snipes say, I know Hollywood, I know action, I know martial arts, but when it comes to African history, I'm going to go to the premier African historian, revolutionary Pan-Africanist historian in the world that's still alive today. So LeBron James could have easily gone to a number of Pan-African scholars, of revolutionaries, and say, hey, I got the money. And I want to open the Amos M. Wilson School. I want to open the Dr. Bobby E. Wright Memorial School. I want to open the John G. Jackson School. I want to open the Carter G. Washington School. And I'm going to find the African scholars, wherever they are, and give them six-figure salaries and say, create this institution. And I'll show up with a basketball twirling on my finger and bring you all the publicity and get you all the resources you need. But this is y'all. Y'all do it. I'm going to use my name to get by. I ain't know what. I promised school. I've been dribbling balls. I've dribbled more balls than read more than open books. So I ain't opening the school. So I'm gonna put it in the hands. I'm gonna put my name and resources. Bob Marley went and said, "Where's the struggle? Where can I got this money. I got this fame." He said, "Well, we in Rhodesia right now. There's a guerrilla army. They don't have weapons. They don't have arms. They don't have a communications infrastructure. These guerrillas ain't got nothing but a desire to be free and a willingness to fight for their freedom." And he was like, "Fine, put the money up for the drugs, for the guns. Let's channel the money through Cuba and all these other, let's get some of the Russians. They said they're willing to kick in. If we can put the money up, and I'm gonna finance this revolution. I ain't about to get out in front of it. I ain't about to go there and fight. I ain't about to go there and tell them to vote for their freedom or to march or set up a school for Zimbabwean kids. I'm gonna let the people decide if they want to take up arms and overthrow Ian Smith. They want to overthrow the Rhodesian government, and I'm gonna give them what they need, what they ask for, not what I think they should have." And they're like, "Listen, I can bring," he wrote that song, Zimbabwe, Africa a liberate Zimbabwe. He wrote that Zimbabwe song to bring publicity and attention. So there has been instances where the people have been aided by their elites, by the black wealth, the people who are able to amass fiat currency within the systems of oppression and racism, and those people kick it back and make that work for the people. I don't see this as that situation. I could be wrong. What I've seen from this point to from the inception, I don't like what I see. But maybe there's things working. I look past the surface. And like I said, this ain't new to me. Same thing people said. I said Bill Cosby is not giving millions of dollars to these black institutions and sending all these black kids to school to enrich or empower the black community. He's doing it to integrate more black people into the status quo, which doesn't help us. Amos Wilson said, the collective progress of black people is inversely proportional to individual attainment within the system. It has been confirmed. The more black MBAs we get, the fewer black businesses we have. The more black doctors we get, the more higher rates of infant mortality, maternal mortality. We got more black doctors now than ever any time in history. And y'all were sharing those pictures of those sexy young black doctors. And everybody's like, "Oh, look at this black excellence." And then I'm like, how are you sharing pictures, celebrating at the same time, right next to those sexy young black doctors, share the medical stats, share the life expectancy, type 2 diabetes, amputation, iatrogenic infections, infant and maternal mortality, injury, vaccine injury, organ theft. Show all the medical stats and then tell me how sexy those black doctors are after that, how black good. So the more black engineers we have, the less black industry we have. We got more black doctors operating in the US and Europe than in the entire continent of Africa. Brain drain. We always talking about they stealing coltan, they stealing diamonds, and we don't talk about how they're stealing our best and brightest minds and having them work for them. The satellite guidance systems that the US is using to dominate space and to bomb Africa from the stars was designed by a black man. Black people have made strides, everything from the light bulb, the tungsten filament, to the damn cell phones. Black people have had key contributions to, yet we don't have any stake in that industry. We're just looking for the next thing to celebrate. I ain't against celebration, but after celebration needs to come strict evaluation, critical evaluation. Let me tell you something. If LeBron James had gone to the Lakota community, the Native American reservation, and say, "I want to open a school," they'd sit him down with the community chieftains and say, "Oh, this is a noble act, young man. Why? What are your motivations? Who do you intend? Who do you work for?" He would have been asked a series of questions and would have had to get permission from the community to help the community. Like I said, if he had gone to the poor Jews, if he had gone to the Ukraine, remember when Madonna wanted to adopt a poor Russian child from a Russian orphanage. And this is when Angelina Jolie was going all over the world, going to Africa like it's a box of chocolates and picking different flavor of little African kids, going to Vietnam and the Philippines, just picking a little flavor of little Asian kid. And Madonna's like, "Oh, I'm going to go get me some colored children." But she's like, "I want to put a little mayonnaise in the midst," and she decided she wanted to get an Eastern European child to go, thought it looked good contrasting with her little colored child. The little Ethiopian baby she stole. And she was like, in Russia was like, the dignity of our nationhood will not allow us just to hand our babies over to some little silly celebrity. They're better off in Russian orphanages than in a Western mansion. And I ain't saying it was the right move or the wrong move. I'm just saying that you better have some damn self-respect. Don't just broke off. Don't twist off, open off, bust off. Because somebody throws a dollar at you. I'm saying we have a right to question. We have a right to have input. We have a right to be critical about it. And the only thing you say is whether your critique is accurate, whether your critique is cogent, whether your critique is consistent, whether your critique holds up over time. But people telling me you ain't got no right to say nothing. I'm a peasant. I'm a serf. You don't have a right to apply your thoughts to this situation. What have you done? Like, ask LeBron and ask you, how did LeBron get rich? Did he dribble the ball, and every time he dribbles the ball and make a point, does the money manifest out of thin air? Where did that money come from? When LeBron first signed his NBA contract, he signed $94 million contract with Nike. Where did that money come from? Did Philip Knight, the CEO of Nike, pull that out of his ass? Where did they get enough money to pay him $94 or $90 million? Where did it come from? And people at the time were saying, you're crazy, Nike. This kid isn't tested. Yeah, he's been dunking on high school kids, but how do we know how he's going to perform in the NBA? Nike is taking a big risk in this investment. Nike made a good call, but how you know? Where did the money come from? The money that made LeBron rich enough to open that school came from the hyper-exploitation of workers around the world. It came from the deindustrialization and regressive tax policies in the United States. It came from polluting environments where third world countries do not have environmental protection laws, so that they didn't have to pay for the toxic waste that is still making people sick and killing people overseas. The profits that Nike generated to pay LeBron $90 million came from colonization, from the military going overseas to collapse governments that were saying our country is not going to be slave labor for the Western entertainment and enjoyment. LeBron's wealth is based on oppression, exploitation, ecocide. So it's blood money. And then you say, well, what about the NBA? What are these NBA owners, these billionaire white men? Where do they get their money from? What holdings and investments do they have? How that they got billions and able to pay LeBron millions? Where does the money come from? And then once LeBron gets that $1 million, he can't just put it in a bank account like we do and then chip away at it to write a bills for check. That ain't how big money behaves. That money is in sovereign wealth funds. He gives that money to people like Mitt Romney, these venture capitalists. That money is all over the world financing all types of things. And he has the low yield, medium yield, and high yield investments. Look at how you sustain wealth. And that'll tell you about class divisions and why working class people have no obligation to praise and say thank you. Because LeBron James is just kicking back down to the community a fraction of what the community is giving him. Like, I go home, my wife has cooked the food, cleaned the house, fed and walked the dog, took care of our children all damn day, and put a plate in front of me. And then I just give her a peck on the cheek. That's good compensation. I told her she was beautiful today. And she's going, oh, he told me I was beautiful. She a sucker if she fall for that. You gonna fall for just a little bit given to you after you give everything to that person. People out here ready to fight me over my positions, my views, my analysis of LeBron James. They ready to put hands on me. Allies I've been working with for 20 years. Calling me out. That's power. That's influence. I'm sorry. I'll confess. I've never seen LeBron James play at all. I might have seen him dunk in a highlight reel. I've never watched a game. The only time I pay attention to LeBron is when he's operating. Like when he left Cleveland for Ohio. Go back and look this up. And the white folks was burning his jersey and calling him coon, monkey boy, nigger. And he went to Miami and people said his rings are legitimate. He's not a real champion. He'll never be a Jordan. And Ohio had no love for him. And then he put on a dress. Go look up Geico Insurance. He put on a wig and a dress as his pittance. Go look it up. And he said, listen, I'm going to put on this wig and a dress. I'm going to bow down and I'm coming back to Cleveland to get y'all, to win you a championship, boss. And then all of a sudden, the same people that were burning his jerseys ran out and bought his jerseys. Like, oh, he may still be a nigger, but he's a good nigger this time. But y'all telling me he's awakening. I don't know. I don't need to know. I'm only saying what I absolutely know. I'm only saying what I absolutely see. Oprah built $1 million all-girls elite school, $10 million on a school. And it's been an utter catastrophe. Bill Cosby put up millions of dollars to send black kids to school. And those black kids joined with the status quo and started exploiting us for personal gain. Where are they now? These people are in their 40s and 50s. They're already established in their lives. Are they kicking back in? Has LeBron consulted with black scholars, African-centered scholars? Has LeBron talking about he's doing a school for at-risk youth? Has he come to understand why they're at risk? Who put them at risk? And my son comes to me and tells me, Dad, I'm at risk. I'm in trouble. And I'm like, I'm going to help you. Without addressing who is attacking you. Akron has a poverty rate of 36%, one of the highest in the nation. And it has a population of black people only 30%. Literally, almost all the black people in Akron live in poverty, but there's a lot of people living quite well in Akron. Why is that? It's because they have better schools? Dale Jones said we came here educated. Lack of education ain't never been our problem. It might be something else. And I ain't saying don't do education. I'm not in my children. You come talk to my children, they'll talk your head off. We prioritize education. I have a master's, my wife has a PhD, my son's only 16, already thinking about what colleges he's going to, but I'm going to tell my son that shoes are made in a sweatshop. I'm going to tell my son, you should care about Palestine. You should care about Indonesia. You should care about people who work in foreign sweatshops. You should care about the brother on your block that ain't got what you got. You can't isolate. You either pro-justice or anti-justice. There ain't no such thing as halfway revolutionaries. You either pro-justice or anti-justice. I'm not devaluing education. That's why I resent education turning into a private commodity. I resent the fact that our public, that we should take the money from the rich. We should take the money from Jeff Bezos through progressive taxation or any other means. Take that money, put it in the public coffers, and then our elected representatives, people who are accountable and answerable to us, need to consult with us and determine what are the interests and desires of the community for those resources. Nobody's done $100 million worth of work. Nobody's done $1 billion worth of work. Every 100 millionaire, every billionaire is a damn parasite. How do we even evaluate labor? The way I evaluate labor, if every NBA basketball player goes on strike like they did with the NBA lockout a few years ago, or more like 20 years ago, remember there was a whole season of no basketball. And then let your garbage collector go on strike. Let the nurses' aides go on strike. Let the janitors go on strike. And you see how the society is disrupted versus basketball players. There was a writer's strike in Hollywood for how many years? You might just have to write some reruns, but beyond that, your life is not affected. How are we paying ball chasers and actors more money than we paying child trash collectors and school teachers? And then y'all keep doing this little bridge stuff. Well, we can't have it all. Let's just get this little school. Yeah, I'm saying get the school. Open the school. Go to the school. Take everything you can get. You ain't got to be a patriot to get the welfare. It's your obligation. Oh, America gave me welfare. So what? Me and my sister were paid on welfare, and my younger brother, who went to Cleveland State. That's the only time I've been to Cleveland a few times. My brother went to college, got a full basketball scholarship, and met his wife there. She's from there. So I've been to Cleveland, Ohio. Been through Akron. And my brother, my sister who went on to be a beautician and got her and educate and teach other beauticians, all three of us have given back more to this system than my mother ever got from welfare. Through taxes. You know, I worked for over a decade as a healthcare allied health professional. I've given more back to this system than this system ever contributed to me. But y'all want to go back to the feudal ages. Y'all want to go back to the dark ages, where the peasants and the serfs are dependent on the benevolence of the Lord. If the Lord deem you worthy of education, then you shall get it. If the Lord's offspring who inherits all his wealth deems you unworthy, then no education until you get another benevolent monarch. If your city produced a basketball star, then you get a good school. If your city didn't produce a basketball star, no good schools for you. That ain't how it's supposed to work. Even the wretched founding father, pedophile, rapist, founding fathers of America knew that wasn't. By the time you living in a system that not even wretched rapists and slavers don't support. Come on. Black people, we are the founders of civilization. We are not just the founders of civilization, we are the founders of bureaucracy, of management, of structuring institutions. We are the first people to fund institutions. We are the first people to come up with a division of labor. And now we got this wretched ass feudal system descending upon us. And you know, my grandmother and great-grandmother and grandma, Sonics Bowie and Genevieve Bowie, my great-grandparents, raised my grandmother, my great-uncle, and my great-aunt through the Great Depression. And my great-grandmother was a stay-at-home mother, and she would sometimes take in laundry, sew, and do little things to supplement great-grandpa, and he was an industry man. Worked the rail yards, worked the factories. He was missing fingers and had all kind of injuries because he was a hard-working man of labor, calloused-hand black man. But they rented a house from a black woman, one of the affluent black families in Missouri during Jim Crow. And this woman was a wealthy widower. And just as she was getting up in age, she went to my great-grandmother and said, I love your family. I love y'all a hard-working family, and sometimes y'all late on rent sometimes, and I see y'all working together, and y'all God-fearing family. And this woman was a benevolent elite. And she said to my great-grandmother, I'm getting old. My husband already passed away, and let me tell you something. If I die, my kids going to kick y'all out of this house and sell it for money, or they going to up your rent. They're going to do you dirty, so you got to buy this house from me. And Grandma said, hey, Grandma Bowie said, all our money goes to feeding our kids, keeping our head above water. I ain't got no savings. I ain't got, and my great-grandfather, he used to get paid payday. He'd go to the back of a truck. They pull up an armored truck and just throw cash off the back. He's not a man of industry. He's not a man of means. And she said, well, I'm going to work with you. I'll put a little money on your books. I'm going to do a little this, a little that. I'm going to make sure you get this house in your name. Sign this and do that. Because she was a benevolent monarch. But she did everything in her power and said, listen, my kids are not going to live based on the goodness or evil of some people of means. I want them to have their own. So she pushed. And my grandmother and uncle owned his own business. My great aunt went on to heights unseen. Because she knew you can't depend on benevolence. You got to get people power. The power to the people. And I'd rather go to my damn neighbor for a stick of butter than have some charity bring a stick of butter because we need that community cohesion. And I ain't saying when the charity do bring the stick of butter to my house, I'm going to divide it up between everybody. We're losing that. There's no reason why the community shouldn't already have a decent school for every black child in Akron. The resources are there, but through regressive taxation. Go look up the upper income tax rate. There was a time in the 40s and 50s where the United States had the #1 public school system in the nation. Even the black kids was getting educated in segregated schools. And the elites said, we're going to dismantle public education. We're going to turn people, all these teachers are so corrupt, they're all off all summer. We want to put teachers in charter school. We want to turn teaching from a profession to a job. We want to take away their union benefits. We want to take away their tenure. We want to have them to be as vulnerable as a line cook in a McDonald's. And that's for a reason. That's for a specific reason I don't even know if I got time to get into. This is an oligarchical system, and black oligarchs are no better than white oligarchs. They can't be better than white oligarchs because if they started behaving differently, they would lose their status. They would be displaced by other hostile oligarchs. So yeah, LeBron, he might be a good dude. Is his wife a good woman? Are his kids going to be good kids? They don't know poverty. His kids ain't never known struggle. So the moment his kids inherit the school, are they going to keep it up? Oh, those kids, they need to pull themselves up. I worked hard. Like Trump, born a multimillionaire, talking about how hard he worked. Trump ain't never known work. Remember, Trump just yesterday said you have to show ID to buy groceries. He's like, I don't know why you have to show an ID. You shouldn't have to show an ID to vote. You have to show an ID to buy groceries. This man ain't never bought no damn groceries. For him, food materializes not only in the refrigerator, food materializes on a plate in front of him. That's the same thing with the first George Bush. Remember, he walked into a grocery store during his campaign against Bill Clinton, and they were scanning the groceries, and he was like, why aren't you ringing up my groceries? She's like, well, when I slide them across this surface, it rings them up through the UPC. And he was like, damn, that's how long you been doing that? He ain't never seen that before, because he was born rich with his bootleg and drug dealing father. And so, even though LeBron knows struggle, LeBron knows food stamps, even though he had his mother mortgage her house to buy him a Hummer, and she's supposed to be a bad mother. I don't know, my mother wouldn't mortgage a house to buy me a sandwich, but you know, he was buying a big full-body yellow Hummer, but now they say he's the most frugal guy in the NBA, so I guess he learned that lesson. But he does have houses all over the place. I don't know how you got multiple residences and you're frugal at the same time, but I guess. But his kids don't know struggle. So when he passes all his wealth untaxed, remember the inheritance tax, the quote-unquote death tax has been done away with. Will his kids be benevolent? Or we have to wait for some other dude to do a rags to riches reach back story? I, for one, do not want the well-being of the society, the education of my children, the health care, the quality of air and water and soil. I don't want any of that being resting on the benevolence of some elite. What happened to power to the people? What happened to that? The people should be able to decide. Everybody in America says they want good schools. Why the hell don't we have it? The resources are there. The resources are misallocated. LeBron didn't earn that money. Bill Gates didn't earn that money. Trump didn't earn his money. You hear me?